Have you ever walked up to someone with a smile, looked them straight in the eyes, and suddenly realized you couldn't remember their name? Your heart starts racing. You hope they won't notice. So you say things like, "Hey, great to see you." Instead of using their name for a moment, you feel embarrassed, maybe even guilty, and then a dangerous thought enters your mind. Am I becoming forgetful? Is something wrong with my brain? But what if I told you that forgetting names is one of the most common and most misunderstood psychological behaviors in the world? Today, we're going to uncover the fascinating psychology behind why people forget names and what it secretly reveals about the way your mind works, because the truth might completely change the way you see yourself. Let's begin with an important fact. Your brain was never designed to remember everything. It was designed to remember what it believes is important every single second. Your brain receives millions of pieces of information, voices, faces, sounds, colors, thoughts, emotions, smells, conversations. If your brain tried to save every detail, it would become overwhelmed. Instead, it acts like a strict editor. It constantly asks one question: will this matter later? If the answer feels uncertain, it quietly lets the information fade away. And unfortunately, names are often the first victims. Psychologists have found that names are surprisingly difficult for the brain because they usually don't describe anything meaningful. Imagine someone says, "This is Michael." What does the word Michael actually tell your brain? Nothing. It doesn't explain the person's personality. It doesn't describe their appearance. It doesn't tell a story. It's simply a label. Now compare that with hearing, "This is the doctor who saved my father's life." Suddenly, your brain creates meaning. Meaning creates memory, and memory becomes much stronger. Your brain remembers stories far better than labels. Here's something even more interesting. Most people don't actually forget names because they have poor memories. They forget them because they never truly learned them in the first place. Think about the last time you met someone while they were introducing themselves. What was happening inside your mind? Were you carefully listening, or were you thinking, "I hope I make a good impression. What should I say next? Do I look confident? Should I shake hands?" Your attention wasn't fully on the name. Psychology tells us that attention is the doorway to memory. If attention never fully arrives, memory never fully forms. In other words, you can't remember something that your brain barely noticed. Stress makes this even worse. Have you noticed how forgetting names happens more often during interviews, business meetings, social gatherings, or family events? That's because anxiety steals mental resources. When you're nervous, your brain shifts into survival mode. Instead of carefully storing new information, it focuses on managing emotions. Your body may appear calm, but inside, your brain is working overtime just to reduce stress. There is very little energy left for remembering names. This is why intelligent, successful people often blank on names in important situations. It's not because they're less capable. It's because their minds are busy fighting invisible pressure. Another surprising reason people forget names is something psychologists call information overload. Modern life bombards us with endless information. Notifications, emails, videos, messages, meetings, news, social media. Your brain processes far more information today than previous generations ever imagined. Every day feels like opening hundreds of browser tabs inside your mind. Eventually, some tabs close automatically. Names are often among them. This doesn't necessarily mean your memory is getting worse. Sometimes, it simply means your brain has reached its daily limit. Here's another psychological secret. Emotion is the glue of memory. Think about people you'll never forget. Maybe your first teacher, your childhood best friend. Someone who changed your life. Someone who broke your heart. Notice something. You don't remember them because of their names. You remember them because of how they made you feel. Emotions tell the brain this matters. Without emotional connection, names easily disappear. This is why meeting someone for only 5 seconds at a crowded party rarely creates lasting memory. But spending one meaningful conversation with that same person can make their name unforgettable. Ironically, people who care deeply about others sometimes forget names more often than expected. Why? Because they're focused on understanding the person, not memorizing the label. They're listening to emotions, watching body language, understanding personality, feeling empathy. Their attention goes toward human connection. The name becomes secondary. This doesn't mean names aren't important. It simply shows that connection often leaves a stronger impression than vocabulary. Now, here's the encouraging part. Your memory is far more trainable than most people realize. The next time someone introduces themselves, pause for just 1 extra second. Repeat their name naturally. Connect it with something unique about them. Picture their face. Use their name once during the conversation. And before leaving, say it again. These tiny psychological habits strengthen memory far more than simply trying harder, because memory isn't about effort, it's about association. The stronger the connection, the stronger the memory. But perhaps the biggest lesson isn't about remembering names at all. It's about being kinder to yourself. Many people panic after forgetting a name. They immediately think, I'm getting old. My memory is failing. Something must be wrong with me. But one forgotten name doesn't define your intelligence. It doesn't define your future, and it certainly doesn't define your worth. Your brain is performing one of the most complex jobs in the universe every single day. Sometimes it simply decides that a label isn't as important as everything else competing for your attention. And that's completely human. So, the next time you forget someone's name, don't immediately criticize yourself. Instead, ask yourself one question. Was I truly present when I first met them? Because memory begins long before remembering. It begins with attention. When you give people your full presence, your brain naturally gives them a place to stay. And maybe that's the deepest psychology of all. People rarely remember us because we knew their name. They remember us because we made them feel seen. And in the end, being remembered for your kindness is far more powerful than remembering every name in the room.